Hi everyone, welcome to episode 7 of Not the Worsted Knitting Podcast. My name is Michelle and I am the knitter and knitwear designer behind Mishi Fraz Knits. Today we only have a couple of projects to talk about, and you might notice that I'm not wearing a hand knit today. I am wearing my flock t-shirt from last year's event, and I found it only fitting to wear this today because I will be announcing my flock socks today. Now, technically, the hard official release date for this pattern is Tuesday, July 9th, and this will actually be airing the Friday before, but I figured it might be fun to do an early release, and anybody who watches my video will have early access to the pattern, as well as a discount code. So if you look below, there is a discount code for you to buy the socks. Now I will mention before I get into it, there is a yarn kit through Hazel Knits. That kit won't be available until Tuesday, July 9th. But if you wanted to get the pattern, you could order it early and take a look at what's involved, get yourself ready for it. Or if if you're not nearby and you can't use that yarn, then you'll have the pattern and you can get going. So why don't I show you what I'm talking about? Let me go ahead. I've got a couple of versions of this. So this is the Flocking Good Time sock. And this actually there are two versions. There are technically 4 different types of options you can do for this sock. So there is a toe-up version, which is this. There is also a cuff down version, which is this. And then you can do a shadow wrap heel, which is shown on this one, or you can do an afterthought heel, which you see here. So let me go ahead and give you a little bit of info about why all of these versions and where it all started. I was super inspired by Flock's logo this year. They have, if you've seen it, it's a bunch of different colored sheep with different stitch patterns, and I loved the color palette. I already ordered my shirt for this year, and the shirt is actually a similar color to this light blue. And with these kind of brown and gray sheep, I just thought it was really, really pretty. So my color palette is completely inspired by that. And I chatted with Wendy at Hazel Knits about doing a collaboration, because she mentioned that she will be at Flock and she's going to have an area on her booth that features local designers. And I don't know, we thought it would be fun to do a collaboration that's specific for Flock. And so this is a very specific to Flock pattern. You don't have to attend Flock to knit this pattern, but it's just kind of a fun little release that will coincide with the event. The reason it's being officially released on Tuesday, July 9th is because that will be officially 1 month before Flock this year. And so that gives you a month to knit up your socks if you want to wear them to Flock. Now I do understand it is going to be in August, and August is a little bit warm, so I won't judge you if you don't want to wear wool socks in August, but maybe socks with sandals if that's your thing. I think what I might do is bring these with me, wear my sandals, and then maybe just have them on hand if I want to take a fun photo or something. Because I don't know. I mean, it will be indoor and air conditioned, so maybe it'll be fine, but we'll see. Because, not only are these wool socks, but they are also color work, so they'll keep you nice and toasty, let's just say that. Before I go more into the pattern, I'll talk about the yarn since I went over the color palette here. So this is actually my basket of leftovers. It has a bunch of other sock yarn in it, but this top section is the leftover yarn from these socks, and it is all Hazel Knits Artisan Sock, which it's a heavy fingering weight yarn, and it's 90% superwash merino and 10% nylon. That is the tag for it. And the colors are so beautiful. So the main color is this, which is Frost. The secondary contrast color that you'll use the most outside of the main color is this Linen. And then, so this color, which is used for the heads and the feet, is Signature Black. And then these 3 colors you will alternate for, and that just flew out of my hands, Okay, these 3 colors are the alternating sheep colors. Now, you don't have to do 3 different colors of sheep if you want. You can do 1 color of sheep. You could do every single sheep a different color. But these were, again, I was really inspired by the Flock logo for this year. I loved the color palette, and if you've ever been to Hazel Knits, it's actually really hard to just choose your favorite color because literally every shade of every color you could ever imagine exists in her store, and it's just a dream. It's seriously a dream. But anyway, colors. So this it's like a brownish gray. It's definitely a gray, but it leans a little bit more on the dirty brown side. This is called Wood Smoke. This beautiful golden color is Dolce de Leche. And then this lovely rust color is, I believe, yes, it is called Henna. And I mean, so pretty. Look at the way that those just shine. Absolutely beautiful. So that's the yarn. And again, there will be kits for this available through Hazel Knits. I won't have the link in this video because they won't be ready until Tuesday, July 9th, but the link will be in the pattern once that is live, and all of that information will be ready to go in the on the pattern page on both Ravelry and my website. So you can find that info there. And I mean, actually, maybe what I'll do is I will put the link down in the show notes, but only once it's live. So if you watch this video when it airs, you'll still have a couple of days before that link will be active. But you can definitely order your kits for this. And I just think these are so fun. So this, let me see, this is my toe-up version. This is the first version that I knit. And when I designed this, I played around with a whole bunch of different types of sheep. Again, you know, like I mentioned about the logo, it's got the sheep actually have a bunch of different stitch techniques in them. So initially I swatched a sock where, I mean, I just did like the little leg portion because I wanted to see how it would knit up. And I swatched it where each sheep had like a different type of stitch motif. I was playing around with like seed stitch or moss stitch, and I had like bobbles and slip stitches and purl stitches, and all of it actually just looked kind of messy. Especially on such a small needle size. If you hear some rustling, Tuna just brought down his little whippy toy. He likes to throw it up in the air and catch it, so that's what that noise is. Anyway, so yeah, so on such a small needle size, on such a tiny garment, it just felt like too much. It felt really messy, and I tried to pare it down, but I just realized that you're already doing color work, so having different stitch techniques with color work was also just not really that fun to knit, and like, it needs to be something you enjoy knitting. Yes, you want the finished product to look great, but if you don't enjoy knitting it, the chances of you finishing it are very low, especially with a small circumference knit like this. So I decided to just go stockinette, which actually I love. I think that the sheep really sing. The color is so good. And so you've got the different color sheep, and these are the same, they just stagger. And I wanted to add relief rows, and so the relief rows are actually just like front-facing sheep, but all in the linen colorway. And I just thought it was like a fun little border where it's kind of an abstract border, but when you look up close, they're actually little sheepies. I don't know, I love the sheepies. They make me really happy. So again, I knit this toe up because when I did my swatches, I actually preferred the way the sheep looked with the stitch direction, where the V's pointed this direction, so like the feet kind of angled, were more pointed, and the ears kind of had more of a V than a point. I preferred that look overall. And then also, you might notice that in some of the rows, you do actually have to hold 3 yarns at a time. Now, just a couple of rows per sheep, but it does happen, and I know not a lot of people love to do that. So one thing I tried to do when I could was on a secondary row where you have the black, because the black is the third color introduced. On some of the secondary rows where you have a black color, you would actually just slip that instead of knitting it again. It's the same technique as basically mosaic knitting, where you're not actually using that yarn color. You're not knitting with that yarn color on the round. You're just slipping the stitch to carry that color up to the next round. And that actually helps out a lot to give you a little bit of relief, and it gives you less rows. Basically, I think you have 2 rows where you're knitting, oh, there's 2 now. You have 2 rows, I believe, where you are knitting with 3 colors at a time per sheep. Whereas for the cuff down, so if you can see the cuff down, you can see that the feet, actually, let me see if I can show these side by side. Okay, let's see if I can actually see what I'm doing. All right, this is cuff down, this is toe up, and you just see the difference in the stitch direction and how it affects the motif. It's not a huge difference. It's not, I think either way, like when you pull back, you don't notice it at all. So like really, I mean, this is a really minuscule thing, but when you're designing patterns, you know, those little details matter, because at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, I am a bit of a perfectionist, but I want it to be exactly what I see in my mind, or as close as I can get. So yeah, you can see the difference in stitch definition, but then also because you're knitting in a different direction, so like when you're knitting toe up, obviously you start with the toe and you knit upward. So you are reading the chart kind of exactly how it will look. Whereas when you're knitting cuff down, you're essentially knitting this upside down. So you're knitting the sheep upside down. And so what that means is you actually have less rows where you can slip that black row instead of knitting it. I think you only have one slipped row. Is it 1 or 2? I think it's only 1 slipped row per sheep for the cuff down, where it's 2 slipped rows per sheep on the toe up. I hope that made sense. I don't know if this was just a really random rambling to you about stitch definition, but if you knit socks a lot, then you'll understand. So long story short, I did the toe up version, was really, really happy with it. And I was writing up the pattern, I wrote up the chart and everything. And then I was just kind of curious because I know, like I've done patterns for both toe up and cuff down, and it does seem like people prefer to knit cuff down just because I think it's just an easier approach. You just do, I mean, for me anyway, I do a long tail cast on, do my ribbing, and then I go, and then you can kind of try it on. It's just, it feels like it's easier to try on somehow, because when you put it on, you get to your toe length, whereas it's a little different when you're knitting toe up. You like, for some reason, it just feels a little bit more awkward to try and measure where it's hitting at your heel versus where it's hitting at your toes. Now, I should have brought it with me. I have a sock ruler that I use for all of those things now. A lot of times I'll know the amount of rows I need to do for my size or my husband's size, but that changes when you're doing things like color work or different stitch techniques. So if I can't really try it on super easily, I just use my sock ruler, and you stick it in all the way down to either the toe or the heel, and you just roll it up until it hits the number of what size you are. And that's worked really great for me so far. So I think the ruler I have is by Twice Sheared Sheep. I hope that's right. I'll put it down below in the notes for you. But yeah, I really recommend using a sock ruler. Those things are lifesavers if you knit a lot of socks. So I decided to actually do a poll on Instagram where I basically asked, like, what is your preferred sock knitting method? Because I was just genuinely curious, and no surprise, cuff down won by a landslide. And so I was just thinking about this and about how, like, yes, I want it to be toe up. I love the toe up version. I think that that's how it really sings and it's great, but like, it's not really fair if somebody really doesn't want to do toe up, but they like the sock. And honestly, it was not really that difficult for me to translate it to cuff down. I basically just had to flip the chart and change some of the directions a little bit in terms of where you're stopping the motif. So after realizing that a lot of people really prefer to do cuff down, and some people just like straight up won't knit a pattern if it's toe up, I decided to ask people like what is your preference? If you are a cuff down knitter and you really like a pattern, are you willing to do toe up? And how do you feel about a sock pattern that has both options? Is that too much? Is that too overwhelming? Like, I know some people don't like it when they get a pattern that's like 10 pages, 15 pages long, even if half of it is for something different. And largely, people were very, very happy to have a pattern that had both options. There were people that straight up said they won't knit toe up, they just won't do it. Some people don't really want to do the cast on method, like you do. So for mine, you do a Judy's Magic cast on. It's similar or maybe exactly the same as a Turkish cast on. I think those might be the same. I've done both, but I haven't done the Turkish cast on in years. So I can't remember if it's slightly different, but I think they're the same technique. But yeah, some people just don't want to do that, and that's totally fair. If your go-to is cuff down, then that's what you should do. And so I decided to knit another version, cuff down, after I wrote up the pattern, just to make sure all of the numbers still worked out the same and everything worked out great. And yeah, so it is a charted pattern. The charts are slightly different for each size, and that was intentional so that the motif is as similar per size as possible. Because these are, in order to get this motif, these aren't exactly standard counts for the amount of stitches that you normally do. This pattern includes your normal standard sock stitch counts. Because I didn't want to change those numbers. I like to stick with your standard numbers when possible, because I find that it's just so much easier for people to pick up and know what their size is going to be. And so that means that I had to customize the chart for every size. So there are 4 sizes, and so there are 4 charts for the toe up and then 4 charts for the cuff down, and that's just so you have your own custom chart for your specific size, for your specific preferred sock. There was one other thing I want to note about that. I realize now I have been talking about these socks for like 18 minutes. Wow. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about slipping your stitches. Some of the rows, you're holding your color, you're holding 3 colors. Like all of the rows where you've got the feet and the heads, you've got 3 colors in those rows. And in order to make that easier, I recommend that you slip stitches on rows where that color repeats at the same location. But just in case you didn't want to slip your rows, in case that's just weird to you, or you just want that integrity of having a knit on every single row, I thought it would be fun to actually do one where I didn't slip any of the stitches. So in my original toe-up version, this includes me slipping the stitches on rows where that black appears on the same spot on the chart twice. Those are slipped. On my cuff down version, I did not slip any stitches. And what I thought was super fun is that, I don't know if you'll really be able to tell here, the cuff down one, yeah, you can see it. The cuff down one is a little bit longer. And that is because I knit every row instead of slipping some of the rows. And, you know, if you're not familiar with slipping stitches like mosaic knitting, it does shrink the fabric a little bit. And that's because you're not, instead of knitting 2 rows on top of each other, you're knitting a row and then you're slipping that stitch up. So you're kind of pulling, you're adding a little bit of tension to that stitch. And so it also sort of elongates the sheep just a little bit. Not enough to where you really notice it, but you can see that the sheep on this guy look a little bit taller and the sheep on this guy look a little bit squatter. And I just thought that was a fun detail to show. It does mean that I have 2 socks that don't exactly match, but they're close enough. Look at that. Yeah, actually you can see the difference there in the height. But they're close enough that when I'm wearing it, it's okay. And this might sound really weird. I don't know if anybody else shares this issue, but my left foot is actually like a quarter of a size bigger than my right foot. Like it's just a little bit longer than my right foot. So like I'll just put the longer sock on my left foot and it'll probably be okay. That might have been a really weird anecdote and like TMI, but I don't know, you know, we're all friends here. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, Flocking Good Time socks. They should be out now that you're watching this. Definitely check below for your discount code. And then, yeah, Tuesday, July 9th, definitely check out Hazel Knits and see her kits for this. Her yarn is wonderful. It's beautiful, beautiful yarn, and her colors are fantastic. So I cannot recommend her yarn enough. And yeah, so she will probably also have some kits available at Flock. I'm just making sure right now. I'm trying to verify, like she's dyeing up the kits right now. They should be ready within the next couple of days. And so we just need to make sure, see how many of them go and if there will be enough to have at Flock. And so I'll keep you guys posted on that, but it's super exciting. So yay for a Flock collaboration. Whee. Okay, enough about these. I've spent 20 minutes talking to you about colorwork socks. Wow. Okay. All right. So next up on the list, if you watched last week's episode, then you will know that I was working on a summer version of my Prismatic Reflection sweater. Obviously I knit this and it came out in the spring, but I really want to wear a summer version to Flock. And I tried a couple of versions and I didn't love them, and finally settled on buying some Knitting for Olive yarn, which I'm really enjoying. Knitting for Olive cotton merino. And last video, I was torn on what colors to use because I ordered a bunch of them online. And while I love all of the colors, some of them were a little bit darker than I expected. And putting them together, I really wasn't sure how they were going to work out for this particular pattern. So the main thing to talk about with this pattern and why the color tone is so important, and when I say color tone, I'm talking about how light or dark it is on the spectrum. If you were to take a photo of all of the yarns, turn it to black and white, look at which ones veer a little bit more toward black versus the ones that veer more toward white, and then all in between. As they get lighter and darker, that's how they vary in tone. And that is actually something I used to determine what colors I narrowed down to make this top. My original colors that I really, really wanted to put together were these three. And I have to tell you, I still absolutely love them. Like they're so beautiful. They will go together on something someday. However, it will not be this. The reason why the dark colors are dark versus light colors are so important on this is because of the marling. So I am holding a strand of white throughout, and that's to help soften the transition between the stripes so it's not this really jarring striped effect. And the thing is, when you hold a white yarn alongside a dark yarn, it just, the contrast is really high. And there's also a cabled pattern in here. And so when you've got that high contrast plus a cable pattern plus stripes, it's so distracting, you can't really tell what's going on. So I needed colors that would be relatively low contrast with the white. And that meant that I needed light colors. And if I haven't already, I will pop up the image I took. So I took a photo of the yarns that I picked, and I turned it to black and white, and you can see which ones skew lighter. And it definitely knocked out not only both of these, definitely the navy blue, but it also knocked out that dusty blue, which is there. I hope I'm pointing to the right one. It's that blue all the way at the end. I really wanted initially to do like a gradient fade of lighter to darker blues. That was initially what I was thinking, but that dark blue was like way too dark. This one actually, which is elephant blue, is actually on the verge of being a little too dark, believe it or not, but I think it's okay. So I did a swatch because I told you guys I was going to do a swatch, and that is what kind of helped me figure out what colors I wanted to do. And so you will see here, so I've got the mint, I think it's soft mint. The next color is elephant blue. Then we've got lime yellow. This is dusty blue whale. This is, I believe it's rhubarb rose. And then this is just their yellow. I believe it's just standard yellow. I initially wanted to do these 3 colors. Ignore all of that. Basically these 3 blues. And you can see, like, look at the contrast in the marling of that dark blue. It's just too much. Like, adding cables in there, you would completely lose it. And you can see what I mean. Even the dusty blue, it's this is elephant blue, I'm sorry. Even the elephant blue, the contrast is a little bit high, but I'm okay with it. So this lime yellow ended up being one of the ones I picked. And if I didn't mention, just in case, I ended up running out to a store that's sort of near me and picked up a few more colors. That's actually where I ended up getting this mid-tone blue, the elephant blue, and the rhubarb rose. Knitting for Olive, if you don't know, they have amazing colors, and apparently I think that they just put out new colors for the cotton merino, and that's why some of these are new. And I don't know, it was just really, really hard to narrow down to the ones I wanted. But after doing these 3 in order, I was kind of sold. I went back and forth. I asked my friends, I polled lots of people. Different people had different ones that they wanted. Actually, my husband, he liked these 3, which, yeah, that's good too. Like, I really like that one. And honestly, every time I look at it, I change my mind on which ones I like the most. But I kind of already went for it, so we're going for it. And what I like about these 3, actually, is it kind of maintains the same theme of what I went for with my original, where you have 2 that are basically right next to each other on the color wheel. You could even say that one is just a shade of the other. You know, you've got this mint, which just turns out it looks very pale blue. It's got a little bit of green in there, but it's just a very pale blue. And then you've got this elephant blue, which, what's funny is, just like this, it looks like a very gray blue. But put together with these, I find it actually reads a little more periwinkle. And then you pop in this lime yellow, and so you've got these 2 which are very similar, and then you pop on this one. Now, this is not complementary to these. It's not opposite either of these on the color wheel. I would say it's even maybe like, what is it, like a dyad? Is that what you call it? Where it's like one off from the color wheel. So you've got one color, and then there's a color in between, and then the next one, there's one color in between the 2 colors. I believe that's like dyad. Is that right? And so they're almost analogous, but it's like you swapped the order a little bit. And then this one is just like your bright pop of color that's a little bit different from the blues. So I just really enjoy that. Whereas like with this one, I've got that corally orange, your hot pink, and then blue for a pop of color that's sort of like a complement to the other 2. So I just found this to be really fun, and I'm going to try not to doubt myself anymore on the colors I picked. I'd be super curious actually to know what colors you like. So after I did this swatch, I took a photo of it and took it into Photoshop and made a bunch of different combinations just based on the swatches. And that's what I used to help me narrow down. And I'll pop it up here so you can see, but I would love to get your feedback on what colors you prefer, because I get the feeling there's probably going to be a lot of people that are like, oh, why did you do the lime yellow? Like, you should have done the pink, or you should have done the regular yellow. And you know what, maybe, yeah, like, I am a bit compelled by that. I do think that's really fun. But I think what I like about this is it's a little bit bold and unexpected in a way where you've got these 2 that feel a little bit reserved, and then you've got this like, bam, lime yellow, because this is a summer garment. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be bright. So why don't I show you my progress? Here we are. Let's see if I can you see? It's bunched up on my needles, so it might be a little bit hard to see the motif. And I'm trying to, yeah, okay. So that's how far I've gotten. I'm about halfway through, I'm about halfway through the third color stripe. I have already separated the sleeves. And I also want to show, so when I went out and bought the extra balls of knitting for Olive cotton merino, she also had these stitch stoppers that are little cats. And of course I had to buy them because if you're new here and you don't know, I'm kind of a big fan of cats and all thing cat related. So I should also, that same trip, I went out with my friend, we went to a couple of yarn stores, and then there's also a bookstore, a local bookstore near us called Third Place Books. And I found this bag, which, oh, it's so good. It's so fun. It's by Danica Studio. I don't know, I saw it, I had to have it. So I'm actually keeping my extra balls of the cotton merino in here. I'm also realizing, you guys, that I'm like really hitting a lot of tangents today. So if this if this video seems all over the place, I am sorry. I think I'm just really excited about everything that I'm working on right now. Like, truth be told, I got to here and I actually started doing the dusty blue because I really wanted that gradient, and it was looking really bad. Like, you couldn't see the cables at all on that third stripe. Like, it's already darker in the second stripe, and then in the third stripe it was so dark the cables were completely lost, and I got kind of bummed. So I ripped it out, and yeah, it was the right call. As soon as I put on the lime green, I don't know, it just like instantly improved my mood. And I'm really excited for this now. And I tried it on, it feels great. I gotta tell you, I'm really enjoying this cotton merino. So I mentioned this last time, I believe, but it's a 70% organic cotton and a 30% extra fine merino. And it's quite soft. Like, for a cotton, I mean, you definitely feel, especially on a blocked swatch, you can feel, if you've ever knit with cotton before, you'll know it has a bit of a hardy quality to it. I don't want to say rough because it's not rough, but it doesn't have that bounciness that wool has. But you feel a little bit of that merino in there, and it really helps to soften it up. And actually, it also helped the swatch bloom nicely. So I thought it filled in between the stitches really nicely, and it looks really nice. Like, it doesn't look messy at all. So I'm really enjoying knitting with this. I will say, I did kind of a marathon of knitting on this over the weekend because I was so excited, and my wrist was a little bit sore. So I do think, it is 70% cotton, and so you're gonna feel some of that a little bit, but just take breaks. That's what I'm trying to do. Whenever I stop and I feel like my wrists are getting a little bit sore, I'll do some hand exercises, I'll take a break. I'll step away, maybe go for a walk, get outside for a little bit. And when I come back to it, I normally feel all right. So just, I don't know that I would want to power knit on cotton, especially this, but it's not too bad. And it's definitely easier on my hands than when I've done like a cotton and linen blend. Like, those are really tough on my hands. So yes, I feel like I'm making good progress on this. I don't actually have much more of the chart left to do. Like, you can see, so the chart is completely symmetrical from top to bottom. And so I'm in the bottom third of the chart. There's only one more stripe, and then you end the chart the same way this begins, where the diamond begins a little bit above the colors. And yeah, so once I finish the slipped stitch cables chart, then it's just stockinette until my desired length, which I'm still unsure how long I want this. What I need to figure out is what I'm gonna wear this with. This is probably just gonna be something I wear with jeans. So I might do like a French tuck with it, or something where I can just leave it out and let it be loose and billowy. Like, I very much want this to be a t-shirt that's not too tight, not too form-fitting, is easy and comfortable. And, because this is two strands of light fingering held together to make a DK. And so it's not the lightest weight summer garment that you've ever worn, but it is quite light. And the gauge is pretty loose. So this is knit on, so the main portion of the body is knit on a US 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter needle. The ribbing is in US 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter. But again, the gauge is quite loose, and that's really nice on a summer top because it just doesn't feel too heavy or stiff. I can't wait for this to be finished for me to block it. I am curious how much this garment is going to stretch because, you know, obviously blocking a whole garment is going to be different than a little swatch. And I didn't really notice a lot of stretching on a swatch, but I suspect that there will be some stretching on this garment. And so I'm very curious to see what this is like post-blocking. And I'm really excited to see it. So I don't think it'll be too much longer before I finish this. And then I will finally have a summer mod of my Prismatic Reflection, and that's super exciting. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on the colors, if you think I'm totally crazy for going with the lime, or if you like the lime. Oh, I like it. I really like it. Okay. I think that's enough about that. One thing I also wanted to mention though, because I had a lot of people chiming in about not only loving these colors and this color, but also really loving the dusty blue whale. This is hard. There we go. I think, as you can see, I have a lot of single skeins of these yarns now. I think that with the leftovers of my Knitting for Olive, I might do a Velocore top, which is, I guess it's like a short sleeve top design by Andrea Mowry, and I've had that in my library for a couple of years now, and I think it actually just I think a lot of people have been knitting it this summer in particular. I know she mentioned she had a discount on it for a little bit, and it just kind of reminded me that that would actually be a really great top to use a lot of these extra single ball scraps of my yarn, because you have one main color that makes this kind of like main grid pattern, and then you can add multiple contrast colors underneath, and I believe it's like a garter stitch underneath that makes these little stripes, and I think that actually would be really pretty in something like this, or maybe with the dusty blue. I don't know, I might have to play around with some ideas for that. I don't know when I'm gonna knit that, but it's in my queue somewhere down deep in my queue. Okay, yeah, so that's my update on my Prismatic Reflection summer mod. There's one more thing. I have absolutely zero updates on this work in progress, but I'm bringing it back out because it was kind of controversial and I kind of don't disagree. This guy, Field Day Cardigan, wow, it's super wrinkled now. I chatted about this at length last video about how my gauge changed a little bit after I actually knit the garment, and it loosened up slightly, which means that instead of knitting the size 2 on the pattern, I'm meeting the measurements of the size 3 kind of exactly. And I really wanted the size 2 because that is the exact bust measurement that I am, and I'm terrified of oversized garments. I'm like, I avoid them at all costs because I have a narrow waist and then I have wide hips, and often when I have something that goes straight down and hits my hips, I feel like it just makes me look bigger than I am. However, I am trying to embrace the oversized look. I know that that's really in right now, and not just that, it's quite comfortable. I mean, if you've watched all my videos, I think my 3rd video, I was wearing the Wool and Honey sweater, which ended up having like 10 inches of positive ease on me. And I love that sweater. It's a bigger sweater on me, but it's one of my most worn garments. So, the pattern calls for this to be, I believe, 8 inches of positive ease. And this currently, if at the current trajectory, based on my measurements, this will probably end up being 11 inches of positive ease on me. And last week I was humming and hawing about the fact that it's too big and I don't like oversized, and there were a few people in the comments who were like, Michelle, you're knitting a dropped shoulder cardigan. Those are meant to be big, those are meant to be oversized. Also, it's outerwear, so it's okay if it's a little bit big because you're wearing something under it. And you know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So, all right, I'm gonna try this on one more time because I'm wearing a t-shirt today instead of a knitted top. And, you know, why not be accurate with what we're wearing? So, you know, if I close it, it'll be like this. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. So that is, it's so hard to show at this stage, but you know, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. I would say probably at least a good 4 inches of positive ease on either side. As accurate as I can get it. But yeah, now I'm starting to wonder if I am overthinking it. Like maybe it's okay if this is a little bit big. I don't know, guys. What do you think? So I am asking for your opinions and feedback on, should I keep it as is, be okay with 11 inches of positive ease, because it's only 3 inches more than what I would be if I completely ripped back and started over? Or should I just rip back and knit the size exactly to my measurements, which would be 34-inch bust with 8 inches of ease? I don't know. What do you think? I'm going to take this to knit night tonight. So tonight is our knit night, and I'm going to try it on for my friends and ask their opinion as well. And I've already told them to be prepared and to give me brutal honesty. So this is sitting, waiting. I'm super curious. Now I will say one thing I do need to think about is I have 2 more balls of yarn left to do this whole thing. I just joined on my 3rd of 4 balls of yarn. So this was 2 balls, basically, of yarn. And then I've got 2 more. It may or may not be enough to finish this. This is Hazelknit's Lively DK in Shanty Pants. And she still has more, so I could get more, but you know, this is all hand dyed. It's probably not gonna match. And that's okay if I'm doing, what I've debated is maybe I just buy the yarn differently for the sleeves, especially with the drop shoulder. The sleeves are gonna look different anyway when you knit them at a different angle. And with hand-dyed yarn, it's gonna be a different line here. So if I did a different dye lot for the sleeves, I don't think that would matter. But I also wonder if maybe I'll have enough to get through most of this, and maybe I could just use the new dye lot to do the bottom cuff and the sleeve cuffs. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna need to see how close I get on yarn before I make a decision there on how much I'm left with. I really, really dislike yarn chicken, but I think I might have to do that on this one just because. And like, I can go to Hazelknits and pick up more. Like I said, I already saw she's got more on her website. She's a bit out of the way for me to get to, but it would probably make more sense for me to go to the store in person just so I can compare. Because I saw she actually had 2 different dye lots on there, and I think one is more blue and one is a little bit more golden. And I honestly don't know which one would be the better match. So please tell me what you think. Drop shoulder cardigan. I'll put the picture up so you can see what the designer has recommended for how it looks. And let me know if you think if I should just start over and stop trying to make this work, or if you think it does work and I'm just being ridiculous and stop being so afraid of oversized things. I don't know. I'm actually very curious to hear what you guys are going to say. Let's see, I think that is it for knitting this week. I feel like this was kind of a different episode because, well, I don't know why. I don't know, it just feels a little bit different today. I think because I think partially, like, I know these socks were a finished object, but I finished these so long ago and I've just been waiting to announce them that I think it set the tone for everything, feeling like this is a big announcement day or something. I don't know. And it's exciting to finally have these guys out and, you know, I can share them. My testers have been keeping all of their photos secret, and so I'm actually going to tell them after this video, like, go ahead and post your photos on your project pages. This will be live on Friday, and so that's all really exciting. So if you stuck around until now, thank you so much. Oh, right, I have to update you on my books because I'm sure you guys are super interested in what I'm reading. Man, what an episode today. Okay, so last week I told you guys I was reading Everyone is Watching by Heather Gudenkauf, and I already finished that book. So that was actually a really fun read. It was, I really did appreciate it. It was like Clue meets reality TV and live streaming with like dirty little secrets. I don't know. Now, this was not exactly like high caliber literature, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was a really quick read. I mean, I'm pretty sure I read it in like a week. And yeah, I enjoyed it and it was a fun read. So if you like fun little mystery, I guess it's sort of a murder mystery, but it doesn't take itself too seriously, then this is a good book for you. And so what I am reading now, it's called Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. And without giving too much away, because I really don't want to give away much about the plot, it's basically a main character is stuck in a time loop and she has to solve clues in order to figure out what event caused the time loop and how to change the event to get herself out of the time loop. And having not read the synopsis before I went into the book, it started out very differently than what I thought. When the time loop happened, I was like, what? So like I said, I just started this, so I'm not super far in, but I'm really intrigued and I'm enjoying that as well. So yeah, that kind of concludes everything I've been up to. I've got, obviously, once I finish this pattern for my summer top and figure out what I'm doing with this cardigan, I actually have a couple of designs that I'm doing for Blue Sky. As I've mentioned, I'm part of their maker program, and both of the projects that I told them I would do this year are for fall and winter, and so I'm finally working through some of that, and so I'll probably be chatting about those projects in the upcoming weeks. But otherwise, stay tuned to see how my summer top progress goes. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much if you gave me any input on colors or thoughts on the cardigan. I appreciate the people who were like, hold on, don't make a decision just yet. Like, it might be okay. It might be savable. I'd love to see what most people think because I'm really curious, and I'm kind of at a standstill. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for commenting and being a part of this community. I feel like I've made so many friends by doing this, and it's crazy because I'm only 7 episodes in, but I feel like I've met so many people already and you guys are incredible. And I'm really having a lot of fun with this. Like, I was kind of terrified when I first started this podcast, and now I really look forward to it. And that's because of you guys, so thank you so much. If you want to get in touch with me, I am MishiFraz on Ravelry and Instagram. You can email me at mishifraz@gmail.com, and then I also have a blog, which is mishifrazknits.com. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.